Hi everyone, Jessica here from Paper Ink Stamp and welcome back to my channel. So today's video I'm showing you the cards that I've created for this issue of Die Cutting Essentials. So this issue is 103 and I was asked to do a commission with the free gift. So this is the free gift we got here. It's called Berry Special. So of course at the time of filming this, it is currently March. This is on sale in May. So this was what I was sent to work with. So we have the dies here. So we've got the stem, we've got the strawberries, two different sizes, we've got a few different flowers there, and then the tops of the strawberries as well. And then we have this lovely stamp set here as well, full of lovely punny sentiments, which has got jam in it, it's got berry in it. So it was a lot of fun to work with. So I kind of had a free reign really for this commission because again it was using that free gift, and it was to create 5 cards, and these are the cards that I've created. I've tried to do something different in each one, whether it's using a different medium, just going with a slightly different design idea, because I want to show some variety of what you can do with this set. So I did have a lot of fun using this set. It was a really lovely bright colour palette that I had to work with, very spring or summertime. So yeah, I did really love it. So again, 5 different cards. We've got 2 5x7s, one landscape, one portrait. I was planning to do an A6 card for this one here with the basket, but it ended up being so big I had to put it on another 5x7 slimline. We've got a circle and then a 5x5 square card as well. So let's take a look at this card first. This was the first one that I did create when I started to do this commission. And this one here, I wanted to, again, just show you sort of different ways of using different elements. You don't have to use it kind of all together. So I created this background strip you can see here using those different flowers. So you can build these flowers up like you can see on this card here. I've just put 2 together, or you can just use them flat. Where I've used them on this card, again, it's just a single layer flower. But you can lay these up, and you've got 3 different sizes there, so you can lay those up nicely, and you have a nice little bit of stitched detail in there as well. So I coloured these using alcohol markers. That was pretty much the theme for this particular card, was using alcohol markers. So I created this strip, so I just cut it down to the size slightly bigger than what I was going to die cut it at. I then just glued all of these flowers onto the background, and then I ended up using one of my DL scalloped edged nesting dies, one that was longer than what I wanted the card piece to be, but where then it would give me that scalloped edge just to create that interesting background. We've got an embossed background here with a Simply Dots embossing folder from from Card Making Magic. We then have just some really simple die cutting here of the stem, and you can see you've got the 3 leaves, and then it comes over, and then you've got a place for the 2 strawberries. I did the same size on here, but of course you do have to do different size strawberries. With this one here, the top layer will die cut it where you have the seeds die cut from it, and then you have a solid layer which you can pop underneath. For this one I did yellow, and I actually think I prefer the yellow on this one here. I had black seeds, but I think for me personally I do like those yellow seeds. And again, this was all coloured using alcohol markers, just die cut from white. So if you like to colour, die cut your pieces from white and then just colour them in. And then we have the You're the Sweetest sentiment there from the set, and then we just finished it with some Nuvo drops. So really simple card, but again it's just using the different elements. We've still got that main kind of strawberry image there, but using the flowers just to create a background. The next card I created was this one here, the DL sized one, and I really wanted to create a really high stem with this one with lots of strawberries on here, so that's exactly what I did. So we've got a red matte layer for the background. I then die cut again a piece of white cardstock with another DL scalloped edged nesting die. I then did some ink blending with some Distress Oxide. So we've got for the sky, I wanted it to you know, look like it was kind of out in a field, in the a little bit more realistic, I suppose. So I did Tumbled Glass and a Salty Ocean, so just a little salty ocean around the edge for that. And then we did I think it was a Twisted Citron and Rustic Wilderness it was for the bottom. Just trying to remember my colours there. Yeah, just to give the background a little bit of definition and just add a little bit more something to the back of that. So with these, I coloured these in with coloured pencils. So again, maybe you don't like to use alcohol markers, maybe you prefer to use coloured pencils. This was the first time I really had done a lot with the coloured pencils, and I've got the Arteza ones, and it just takes a little bit getting used to. Obviously they don't blend quite like obviously like an alcohol marker would, so yeah, it just takes a little getting used to for that one. But I die cut 3 of the stems you can see here, and what I actually did just to give a little bit of variation on this, so you can see we've got 2 where they kind of branch over. We've got 2 here, 2 this side, and then the 2 up there. It's for this middle one, I actually used the back of it, so I turned it over. You can still see some of that detail in there because it will emboss some of that leaf detail in there, which is really lovely. But I just used the back of it, and you can still see that some of that detail has come through. So if you want to have one die cut that you use more than once on a project, but you don't want it to all look exactly the same, just turn it over and see whether you can use the back of it or not. Consider using the back. If you do get slightly raised edges, because sometimes where you die cut it does press into the card, you can actually just go over it, over the edges with a bone folder, and that will usually sort of straighten out that problem. But yes, we've got 2 the normal way around and 1 the opposite way. I just glued the stems together, kind of worked out how I wanted it to look, kind of snaking up the card, and then I just glued the stems together, and then I glued the actual stems but not the leaves to the card base, because I wanted to be able to tuck some of these flowers in behind. Again, with these bigger strawberries you get the 2 different layers, so we had the black behind. I thought I would try it with the black, but like I said, I think I definitely prefer the yellow looking seeds, I think. And then for the 2 smaller ones, you get one which is completely plain, it will just die cut the shape and nothing else, and then the other one you get that stitched detail like you've got on the larger strawberry. You've got that stitched detailing, and it does then emboss that seed design. It won't die cut it, but it will emboss it for you. And the idea then is you can have them you know, just not all exactly the same. Maybe they're at sort of different stages of growing. So I did go in with a black marker just to add in the seeds. I think some of them, like where I'd added the seeds, maybe I could have added a little less or just left them plain maybe. But overall, I do really love how this looks. It looks like a really nice full stem of strawberries. And I love that I've just added more. So I did obviously each one of the strawberries coming off those sort of bent over stems, but then just tucking them underneath those leaves as well, I think worked really nicely. So I did just glue these ones in, and then pretty much all of the all of the leaves, I did put a small foam dot behind those just to help it stand out, and again just to give it a little bit of definition. We've got a couple of the strawberries here are up on foam as well, but yeah, I really wanted to give that a little bit of shape, and then I used the foam to stabilize that dimension, because obviously when it goes to the post it's going to lie a little more flat, but at least when it gets to the other end they're still going to have that kind of dimension. You could obviously just kind of curl some of these as well, just to add a little bit more shape to the flowers if you want to, but again, adding that foam just makes sure that it is going to look exactly sort of how you want it to look. And then so we added the flowers, so I just die cut these from white again, so we went with 2 of the medium and then some of the smaller ones, and then I add a vintage Nuvo drop just to the centre of those as well. And I really love, again, just the mixture of colour and then working their way up the stem. We've got the sentiment then, "You are very special," and I just stamped that onto some Arctic blue cardstock from Onyx Studios, cut around it and then popped that on. I would have liked maybe a strip sentiment, but we didn't have one of those in this particular set. But yeah, I really still love how this card came out. I just think it's really lovely and colourful. I like I said, I absolutely loved working with this colour palette because it was just so bright and lovely, and yeah, I absolutely loved it. The next card is this circle card. So I wanted to go for something, you know, we've got some quite busy cards going on. I wanted to do something a little bit more simple. So that's what I did with this card here. So this is a circle card. I made this using the circle stitched nesting dies from Creative Craft Products, and just created that card base myself. We've got that mustard yellow cardstock. And what I like to do when I have a commission, if I'm going to be, of course, matte and layering with coloured cardstock, I pretty much use the same colours throughout the projects, so they do all have that kind of coherent look to them. That's just something that I like to do. I've then got this white scalloped edge circle here from white cardstock, and what I did then was just took the large strawberry again. I die cut it 7 times from, I was planning to maybe do like a whole background die cut like this, but I decided just to keep it to the top portion. So I die cut that so I had the shape out of the white. I did then use what I'd die cut and just did a little bit of ink smishing with this one. Again, maybe you don't like colouring, you like to use your inks. So again, another way of being able to do that is then to do a little bit of ink smishing. I think I had a little bit of aged mahogany, candied apple, I think. There might have been another one, but I can't 100% remember. But again, I sort of used those colours again in any other stamping that I did. So I just let those dry. I added foam to the back of this white solid circle and then just glued these down. So you've got this yellow seeds, again, because that's actually glued onto this yellow circle here. And then I just die cut the tops as well, which I think really finishes the strawberries off nicely. And then I coloured those with some bundled sage distress ink as well. Added a little bit of twine onto here. I stamped the sentiment in the aged mahogany, jam like a strawberry, and then we've got a few Nuvo drops on there as well. And of course then just a nice little twine piece just to finish it off. This one's got, it might not be as vivid as the other ones because obviously the strawberries aren't as vivid as using, you know, bright red cardstock or whatever, and because I did some ink smishing. So I thought like the twine and with that mustard cardstock just gave it a slightly more vintage look, if that's what you're into, but again, it still matches in with the other card projects. So again, just a really simple card. If you don't want to do anything too busy, you can still create simple cards and projects using this berry special die set. The next card I created was this one here. So again, I like to try and do sort of different things to show you that you can do different things with the free gift. But also then, you know, depending on how kind of involved you want to make your cards. And again, I want them all to look slightly different. Got just a little bit of glue just hanging there. So I decided to make a basket and have that basket be filled with the strawberries and the leaves. So for this, we've got the filigree nesting die, the rectangle nesting die here, cut again in that same mustard yellow cardstock. And then I've got a piece of white cardstock here, which I just used my score tool to create a embossed grid background. So it's a really great way of using, again, another tool that you probably do have in your stash, just to add a really simple background to this card. And then of course we have the actual basket and strawberries. So again, you'll find all the instructions in the magazine itself. If you want something like this, a recreation of this, let me know in the comment section down below. But we've got the basket. This was just a rectangle I cut. I came in 1/4 of an inch on each side and just cut from that point to the top corner just to give us that basket. I then cut multiple 1/4 inch strips from the Arctic blue cardstock, but I did a little bit of inking on that just so it stood out from that background a little bit, and then just glued that onto the piece, obviously just in a weaved pattern. I then ink blended, I think this was using Salty Ocean, I believe it was, just for a top and a bottom, again for a little bit of definition. This one was just a strip where I rounded then the corners and just added this to the bottom, and then just basically trimmed it all off to what the base rectangle was. And then, so with this one, again, it was just using coloured cardstock, even though I used a little bit of ink for the basket. The actual creating of the strawberries and the leaves, that was pretty much all just coloured cardstock. So again, if you don't want to ink blend, if you're not into inking, if you're not into colouring, you can use your coloured cardstock. And again, I think this worked really nicely. I used lots of different colours in here, lots of different shades of green and red, just because I wanted the basket to be nice and full. Sometimes I find if you're using that same coloured cardstock over and over again, it can kind of lose that definition of what it is. So by having different colours, you can have kind of the strawberries at different points of, you know, growth. Maybe you've got some nice richer strawberries, you've got some lighter strawberries in there, and the same with the leaves. Then I used 3 different colours. So I think this was pretty sure it was grass green, avocado green and olive green, again just for a little bit of variation. I did use some of those stem pieces as well. So essentially I just die cut everything from coloured cardstock multiple times. So we had then different colours of the tops of the strawberries, we had different colours of the stems, and I just kind of mixed and matched everything together. So with these, again, we've got some of these hanging over, and so I had some of them coming out of the basket with those leaves as well. and just like glued those down. So again, it just kind of fills it up a little bit and just adds a little bit more interest on there. All of this is glued down. It's not got any sort of foam or anything. You could add more dimension with the foam if you wanted to, but I just started at the front, adding some of the strawberries in that, and then just kind of built up to that background. I wanted to add this to a A6 size card, but in the end, by the time, because I'd already had to trim this basket down, it was already slightly large. I think it was about an inch longer initially. With the size of the strawberries, you could of course make this smaller again, maybe that would fit, but I really wanted to have kind of a big sort of statement piece on here. So yeah, it didn't quite fit, so that's why I put it on another 5x7 card. But yeah, just sort of filling up the background, and you can kind of go as much or as little as what you want, but I absolutely love how this turned out. And then we've got the sweet birthday wishes there, just cut out, die cut with the stitched circle nesting die, and then that's up on foam. So that's on a small foam pad. The actual basket and the strawberries is on a thicker foam, so it really does kind of stand out from that background. But I love how this one came out, again, just something slightly different. And then for the last card, I like to, again, just have sort of a variation on sizes for my cards as well. And one thing that I really love to do, and I've done it a few times here on my channel, is create stamps using your dies. And again, this is another great example of a die set that you can create a stamp with. So these are actually the stamps that I made just here. So I use funky foam, mainly because it's inexpensive and you can get it pretty much you can get it in lots of different shops, but essentially all you need to do is just die cut the shape. So again, I took that large strawberry that had the seeds die cut from it, and then I also took the top piece as well. Just added some temporary adhesives. I actually just used blue tack to add this to an acrylic block. You can use something like a spray adhesive, like a temporary. You can use a little bit of glue if you want to, or something like a tape runner. Just you don't really want anything that's permanent that's going to mess up your acrylic block. So I cut then a piece of white cardstock down to 4.5 inches, and then basically I just stamped that strawberry to create a background. So to add a little more definition, and I really like how rustic this actually looks. Like some of the edges are slightly wispy, you know, it's not a solid image, and I actually really love how that looks. But I added a little bit of aged mahogany right to the edge, and then the rest of it is candied apple, and it just adds a little bit of shape, a little bit of definition, and it kind of makes it stand out a little bit more. And then we've got the top of it as well, so I did overlap it slightly onto the actual strawberry itself, but again, that was using the Mowed Lawn and Rustic Wilderness, and I did the same thing, just had the Rustic Wilderness just ever so slightly on the edge, just to give it a little bit of shadow there and help it really stand out. Got a piece of grass green cut to, I think this was 4.75 inches onto a 5 inch square base. And then we've got, again, that same mustard seed. So I cut this into a banner with a little fishtail end to it. Thank you very much, again, was the last sentiment. So there was 5 sentiments in total, and each one has a different sentiment on it. And then I did have 2 of the flowers left over from this background that I thought I would just add to the top. But you can see here that you can layer these up. You can kind of lift those petals up as well, just to, again, add a little bit of definition there. And then I just did a simply white Nuvo drop in the center of the flower, just to finish this one off. So that was the cards I created using this free gift. Again, this was from Die Cutting Essentials issue 103. Again, I really loved using this die set. I thought it was a lot of fun, and again, the sort of colour palette that you can use, of course you can use any colours that you want. It doesn't even have to be realistic. You could do multicoloured strawberries if you wanted to, but with the colour palette that I had, I really enjoyed creating these kind of fun and bright cards. So that's it for this video. I really just wanted to show you the cards that I had created. Again, all of the instructions are going to be inside the magazine for you if you want to recreate any of these. If there's anything particular from these cards that you want to see in a separate video, please leave me a comment in the comment section down below, and I can do that, of course, for you. That's not a problem. So that's going to be it for this video. So thanks very much for watching, and happy crafting.